Amarone della Valpolicella is a rich, dry red wine with a controlled and guaranteed designation of origin, a jewel of the Italian wine tradition that make Valpolicella and the hills around Verona among the most popular destinations for all wine lovers. What is the secret behind this masterpiece? How was this wine born? What are the elements that make it so distinctive? Let's find out together in this second chapter of How to Make Wine. As in all origin stories, here too the myth intersects with legend. So let's start the story of Amarone from the legend. One day in 1936, in Arbizzano del Negrar, at the Cantina Sociale Valpolicella in Villa Mosconi, the cellar master Adelino Lucchese comes across a strange barrel of Recioto. Recioto della Valpolicella is a wine made from raisins. To make Recioto, the fermentation process of the sugars contained in the grapes used to be, and still is, interrupted to obtain a very sweet and very old wine, and has always been considered royal, thanks to its rich and fruity taste. So the cellar master comes across a strange barrel of Recioto. Strangely, perhaps by mistake or because of a particularly warm winter, the fermentation process had not been interrupted in this barrel. A large amount of sugars had transformed into alcohol, giving life to a very different wine from the Recioto. Very dry and tannic, with a compelling taste and at the same time incredibly soft and fragrant. Hence the famous exclamation of the cellar master Adelino Lucchese: "This is not only amaro, bitter in Italian, this is an Amarone, the great bitter one." From this velvety and sweet wine, with the passage of time and the change of seasons and methods, has emerged a noticeably drier wine than the original. And if at the beginning this transformation may have been a mistake, this new wine easily stood out and became increasingly appreciated and in demand. But where is this wine produced? Amarone is produced in the classical Valpolicella area in the province of Verona, that includes the towns of Fumane, Marano di Valpolicella, Negrar, San Pietro in Cariano and Sant'Ambrogio. The wine produced here is called the classic Amarone. The climate of Valpolicella is very different from that of the neighboring regions, and this is the key to the success of this area. You see, in the north, it is protected from cold winds by the Lessini Plateau. To the south is the Po Valley, and the absence of mountains guarantees excellent sun exposure throughout the year. To the west, the proximity of Lake Garda makes the winters milder and ensures excellent ventilation throughout the year. This is very important for the process of drying the grapes, as we will see later. The soils of Valpolicella are among the most expensive in Italy. 1 hectare of land can cost up to 200,000 euros. This is because producing Amarone is very profitable today. It is one of the most distinguished Italian wines. In addition, Amarone is also produced in other areas: Valpantena, Valtramigna, Val di Lasi and Val di Mezzane. The grapes used to produce Amarone della Valpolicella are Corvina, Corvinone and Rondinella. The 3 types of grapes can be easily distinguished by their coloring and the size of the grape. Popular imagination has always associated grapes with those who eat them first: birds. Sure enough, the Corvina owes its name to the very dark color of its skin, reminiscent of that of the feathers of the crows. Corvinone is its older brother. It has many similarities with Corvina, but its berries are larger and protected by a very thick and strong skin. The Rondinella, similarly, presumably owes its name to its very dark color with reflections tending towards blue, similar to the plumage of swallows. Okay, we've got the location, we've got the grapes, and we want to make Amarone. What next? The grapes are harvested between the 3rd week of September and the 2nd week of October, carefully selecting perfectly healthy bunches with the skins intact, so that they can last through the delicate drying phase. Today the harvest takes place slightly earlier compared to the traditional harvest times, so as to obtain a slightly higher acidity necessary for the final harmony of the wine. The drying takes place in special dry rooms, where the grapes remain for 4 months until they lose at least half their weight and reach the desired concentration of sugars with the evaporation of water. Drying is a delicate process that takes place in 60 to 120 days according to the percentage of water originally contained in the grapes. The grapes rest in perforated boxes, or traditionally on the arele, lattices of wooden planks and bamboo historically used for breeding silkworms. The grapes are checked periodically to make sure the drying is perfect, that the temperature changes are gradual and there is no stagnant moisture. For this reason, some vineyards are built on hilltops and hillsides, sometimes in nonsensical places. Sometimes it was the location of the drying room that determined the location of the entire building. One of the main characteristics of indigenous grapes is the thickness of the skin, which allows for a long and slow drying process and also a high concentration of juice inside the grapes, which then gives the wine more body and structure. Today, all drying stages are controlled by machinery, especially to avoid mold and to intervene in case of any unfavorable conditions and steer the drying process back to the right path. So we've collected the grapes, we've dried them, and the next step will be to proceed to the winemaking. Vinification is a biochemical process that turns grapes into wine. This happens because the skin of the grapes contains several fungi, not these. They are called yeasts, and they transform the sugar contained in the berries into alcohol. This process is called alcoholic fermentation. To produce Amarone, traditionally the winemaking took place in the winter months at very low temperatures. Here the dry grapes were pressed, and the must was then placed in the fermentation vats for up to 40 days. This way you get a wine that needs longer aging times, both in the barrel and the bottle. Today, in addition to this traditional method, there is a modern one that uses the help of vinifiers, with which to control and manage fermentation temperatures, to break and move the grape pomace around, and thus obtain soft wines in a shorter time. Both methods are naturally completed by aging the wines in wooden barrels. So let's try to make some sense of this. Obviously, this is simplified and the matter is much more complex than that. Each winery has its own processes and its secrets, but let's say that the product of fermentation can be aged in French oak barrels that tend to be smaller. The combination of the characteristics of the wood and the smaller spaces, around 225 liters, that guarantee a greater contact between the wood and the wine lead to a more rapid, aggressive and decisive aging of about 2 years. Alternatively, you can also use the much larger Slavonian oak barrels from 1,000 to 3,000 liters, where the wine ages between 5 to 8 years and becomes much softer. The vinification is then completed by a period of aging in bottle before selling. In 2019, Amarone closed the vintage in second place as the most expensive wine in Italy, behind Brunello di Montalcino and in front of Barolo in third place. There is talk of a quotation ranging from 725 to 800 euro per hectoliter, or translated into shelf price, one might say that with a normal supply chain, a bottle of Amarone must cost at least 32 euros. But why? How is this price justified? Well, first of all, only a part of all the grapes grown by a vineyard can be used for the production of this wine, about 40%. In addition, the grapes must be harvested strictly by hand, by experienced harvesters who know not only how to distinguish the best bunches of grapes, but also how to handle them carefully while placing them to dry. Then the drying process decreases by 30% the volume of liquids and reduces the quantity of the grapes. Finally, the barrel aging further reduces the volume due to evaporation through the wood, and keeps the winemaker's capital immobilized for years. Amarone has had a surge in demand in recent years, especially abroad, so its market price has further increased. When stored in a dark environment at a constant temperature between 11 and 16 centigrade and humidity between 50% and 70%, bottled Amarone can last years. But is it true, as the producers of Amarone proudly say, that you can safely forget about having it in the cellar? Amarone is definitely one of the wines with the highest aging potential in the world, but not all Amarones are the same, and there are big differences between one bottle and another. The golden rule is, the longer the wine has aged in the barrel, the greater the chance of aging Amarone in the bottle. That's why it's important to know how your Amarone was made. If the aging has taken place in a 225-liter French oak barrel that have a faster process, some suggest not to exceed 10 years from bottling, meaning 13 years from the year of harvest. This is just a suggestion, and it's quite likely to find a great Amarone over 10 years old. On the other hand, if the wine we purchased has been aged for 5, 6 or 8 years in larger Slavonian oak barrels, it is possible to store it in the bottle even up to 15 or 20 years. The olfactory aromas are those of ripe fruit, black cherry jam and raspberries. In the more mature wines you can also perceive hints of moss and tar, or goudron in technical jargon. The scent of dry prunes and cherries in spirits is intertwined with hints of undergrowth and dried mushrooms. The most noble vintages are characterized by the softness that envelops the palate in a velvety embrace, full, warm and intense with pleasant round tannins. Ripe red fruits are enhanced with cinnamon and vanilla. The more the wine matures, the more it leaves room for tones of leather, tanned tobacco, roasted coffee and fruity aromas reminiscent of black cherry, blackcurrant, cherries and forest berries. Amarone della Valpolicella is an excellent meditation wine. It harmoniously combines with classic Veronese first courses, such as risotto with Amarone or fresh pasta with duck ragout, or with elaborate main courses of game birds and also with chocolate. As a contrast wine, it pairs well with slow-cooked red meats such as stews and braised meat, grilled red meats, and with aged cheeses. Even by itself, it is a worthy ending to an evening meal. It does not match with fried seafood, salmon, salads, or pizza. The ideal serving temperature varies between 18 and 20 centigrade. Large glasses give space for the wine to oxygenate and develop the aroma. It should be decanted at least an hour before serving. In conclusion, Amarone is a uniquely flavored wine, part of the Italian heritage that is envied all over the world. We should all try it at least once. We hope this video has done it justice. And what do you think? Comment if you have something to share or add. Which do you think is the best Amarone? If you liked this video, please click like or subscribe to our channel and vote below. Which wine would you like to see featured in the next episode?